All right, so we are recording for all those people that cannot be here. And in case you want to go back over whatever it is we end up talking about tonight, which should be about the class 6331, Teaching, Learning, Strategies, and Technology. Ooh, so one thing I will say about this class, people often tend to be a little nervous about it. So make sure your phones and your computers are muted. So we don't get that feedback. Thank you. Just hearing the word technology, people sometimes get a little nervous, and I have seen a few postings where people are like, oh, technology, but I think this class really is very helpful in overcoming any of those fears that you might have in that area as well. So you actually have to get in there and do things with technology, and sometimes it's just the doing it that helps get over that.
Right. Excuse me, I'll wait.
So, hi. So if you can mute yourself. So down on the bottom of the screen there's a little microphone.
Yeah.
There you go. So it just helps prevent any feedback, because with your speakers, my voice is coming through and then it gets fed back. All right, so I'm going to share my screen now, which just basically takes us into the classroom. I started the announcement page because I want to make sure, so you all knew, I think you probably all know where the announcements are. But I posted this week 2 assignment planner here. It says week 2 assignment planner. It's not just a week 2 assignment planner. It's an assignment planner for the whole class. And it kind of tells you what is due for each lesson in what week. It's just a very concise way to help keep track. You'll notice right here around week 8 and week 9, things start to do a little bit of crossover. So this week 8, you're still creating your screencast, but you're also jumping ahead to the role play and getting your draft lesson plan done for that. So there is a little bit of crossover there, and obviously when we get there you will know about that, but just to start thinking ahead, and hopefully by the time we're done today you can start planning. So you all have been students for a while. I think you have the discussion thing down. I think the first week we had some great discussions. This week we are also having some good discussions. I know objectives can be challenging, and sometimes students are like, how did you know how to write that? I think you all are doing a good job. I'm just trying to fine-tune your objective writing. So that's why I've been focusing a lot on, are they time sensitive, and does it just have one measurable behavior each? So if you look at my feedback, it may seem a little bit redundant for a lot of people, but it's just a skill that you're going to acquire. By the end of this class, you'll be writing. So make sure you're
So this is Sylvia.
So if you just joined us, we're already in progress. And if you can mute.
You can't hear anything. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, this is Rosemary.
Okay.
Hi, Rosemary. This is Deborah. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Nice to see a person for a change.
So
Yeah, I'm not on the computer. I'm just on the phone. I haven't been able to hook it up to the computer to see how I can see everybody.
So
I'm going to try to see if I can do that, but I don't know if I can.
Hey, the class has already started. Mute your phones.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Can you all still hear me now? Okay, all your phones and computers have to be muted. We'll get that feedback. So maybe I should have put that. And I'm hearing someone's background phone, so make sure you're muted. Okay, I'm still hearing somebody's background phone. I'll try and talk over it. sure your phone or your computer is muted. Okay, so we talked about the planner, talked a little bit about objective. And if you're driving in your car, also make sure your phone is muted. So we have 3 major assignments in this class. And let me go to the first one here. The first one is your video presentation, and that's what you should be starting to work on now. I'm just pulling up the rubric that you can find under course information and scrolling through it. And you see you kind of have these check-off points. Week 2, you turn in your draft lesson plan, so that's the end of this week. And then week 4, you upload that lesson plan to discussion thread. But what I really want to talk about was the video itself. I'm going to pause again for a second. If anyone needs to mute their phones, I'm still getting a lot of feedback. Background noise, phones muted. Okay, so one thing that I really look at is this video length, and that it needs to be 3 to 5 minutes. If your video is not, and let me increase the size here. Okay, if your video is not 3 to 5 minutes, so if it's under 3 minutes, that's usually not too much of a problem unless it's just like a minute and a half or something. If it's over 5 minutes, I do end up taking points off of that. So that means that you might have to rehearse your video. It means that you might have to redo your video. It's over 5 minutes. So you really want to give yourself some time and space and not feel rushed and like, oh my gosh, I'm only going to do this, I only have time to do this one time, because it might take several times. Video quality, I do actually also look at that. I look at the lighting, if it's either too dark or not usually too bright. Most people usually have too dark of a video quality. And then audio, sometimes it's really hard to hear people. And so, and background noise. So we're kind of actually experiencing that right now, right? I think some people don't have their phones or computers muted, and you hear this kind of ongoing background. I have also had, I've had students that like did their video and they were in a room next door where the TV was on and kids were running around. And so obviously it doesn't create a real, let's see. Linda and Rosemary, are you muted?
Yes.
Okay, you're not muted. Can you go down and mute on the screen there?
Okay, just a second.
Anyone, so Miranda, you're not muted. Anyone who's not muted on
How do
the,
you mute on the screen?
so you go to your screen, the Zoom screen, and it should show a little mute button at the bottom. Thank you so much. We're getting there. If you're on the phone, you can just mute your part of the phone. There we go. Okay. I'm starting to be able to hear myself a little better. I still sound like I hear somebody's TV in the background, so I'll go forward. When you're presenting, you want to be making eye contact. You want things to be smooth. You want to use some creativity. Of course, you have to state your objectives. And you have to pause the video to sort of have this time for your learner to go and do something. And I think one thing to just say about the just the plain video presentation, the first one that you're doing, is to also just not sit there in the camera, kind of like I'm doing right now, and just talk about a topic and, talk for 5 minutes and, okay, I'm done. So we know that people don't learn very well with just straight lecture. So having something that you can use, a prop, so sometimes people will make like a chart or something and they'll go over those points, or they'll focus in on the chart, or they'll have props if they're teaching about food or whatever. They might like hold up the piece of food that they're talking about. So it doesn't have to be focused just on you, and if you can, use some kind of prop to really support the learning. So say you're doing a video presentation about sterile technique with inserting a catheter. You could show that sterile technique with inserting a catheter. You don't necessarily have to insert the catheter, but you could show how you set up and prep and all that using sterile techniques. That would make for a much more interesting video. Really being creative with this and choosing a topic that you can limit to the 5 minutes and being cautious of that and really just paying attention to the rubric because this is what I have to grade from. Does anyone have any questions on the first video?
Dr. Clark,
Yes.
you're breaking up really bad. Somebody's got a TV or something, and I can barely hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, but there we go. Okay, I think maybe they muted. I don't know, it goes in and out. So please mute your phones, mute your computer screen. You can still hear the TV. Let me see if I can scroll through. Okay, so Lynette is not muted. Lynette, can you mute your screen? Okay, we got a bunch of people on phones that I think are muted. Okay, so it's kind of going in and out. I see one phone that looks like it's not muted, but I don't know who it is. Their phone number says 1-22621-85465. I don't know who that is. Anyone with the last number of their phone, 5465, can you mute your phone? Okay. So just so you know, I also have a copy of this presentation I did with students last year. And I could put that up too. Actually, if someone wants to call this person, you could call them and tell them to mute their phone. Okay. So I will put up both links to both. I'll try to because the one that I did last semester didn't have all this feedback noise. So here's the joy of technologies when you're taking your technology class. Okay. The next assignment that you do is the creating a screencast. Does anybody, well, I don't want y'all to unmute, so let me tell you what a screencast is. A screencast is when that's online and you voice over with that, but it kind of flows through more like a video. So that one, you know, you really spend a lot of time doing your PowerPoint part of the presentation, and then you've got to do your voiceover. And the tricky part with that is that,
Dr. Clark,
yes.
this is Autumn. I'm sorry. Can you repeat what the voiceover is? There was a ton of feedback and you cut out.
Sure. Okay. So a screencast is basically a PowerPoint with like a voiceover, but it flows a little bit more like a video. So basically you do your PowerPoint and then you use the technology to put your voice in over it. And you'll be walked through that as you're developing it. So there's a way to do that, to actually create the screencast from the PowerPoint, and you add your video while you're doing that. So the program will walk you through that. So one of the challenges with that is like, okay, you put together the screen, you know, your PowerPoint, how do you know it's going to be 3 to 5 minutes long? So that's where you, again, it's that practice time, it's the rehearsing, it's kind of before you record it, going through it and timing yourself, and seeing if you make it to the 3 minutes, hopefully, a little bit under is okay, and then not over the 5 minutes. So that's with all 3 of these assignments, is that you really don't want to go over the 5 minutes. And that's really one of the big challenges, is choosing that topic that, yes, I can do this in 5 minutes, and it can be a meaningful teaching, and I'm not going over that 5-minute limit. You want your on-screen elements on that to be, of course, creative and appealing. You want to have good audio quality. So tonight we've all experienced poor audio quality. And I was saying earlier, and it might have gotten cut out when I was talking about just the video, but you want to have a quiet place where you're recording, and so that it just sounds like you. You want to listen back to it and make sure it sounds good. What are you going to do if it doesn't sound good, or it's really hard to hear yourself? Hopefully you're going to re-record that, right? So really giving yourself some time with all these assignments to make sure you have, the highest quality audio and video, and that you're being really creative too. Let's see. So learning objectives. So pretty much in all of these presentations too, you're going to be stating your learning objectives at some point in there. The screencast is a little bit different because you could also put them right on a PowerPoint and kind of read them from there. The other thing I want to say too is that you don't want to just end up reading from your screencast, right? So what you put in your PowerPoint are really your main points that you want to address, but you don't want to just read from it and go from slide to slide. And, it used to be, back when I was in nursing school 21 years ago, the teachers all had those overhead laminate type things, and they put them on the overhead, and then there was a lot of criticism. Well, people just read from the overhead, and then we got PowerPoint. It's like, everyone should be doing PowerPoint. PowerPoint's so great. Well, people also just read from PowerPoint. So PowerPoint is really supposed to be a tool that you use and that your learners use, but you're supposed to be adding more to it than what's there on the PowerPoint. So same thing with the screencast. You're providing, and students do, I've taught this class many times, and they do some neat things with graphics that they find. Anything that was a graphic that you used, you would want to just cite that you're using it. So, okay, so I think that's the main thing on the screencast. You do your script, and it's just following the templates for that. For your lesson plan and your script, you're always following the templates. Do you want me to go, now that it's quiet, do you want me to go back to the first video presentation? Okay, I will real quick. I think some of you may have come in later, and it was so loud, and I felt like I was straining my voice, and you may still not have heard me. So this first project that you're doing, your lesson plan is due at the end of this week, and then you also put it eventually on the discussion thread. So this is just the rubric that you can download, and I'm going through it. Your video needs to be between 3 to 5 minutes, a little bit less, not too bad. Over 5, I do start deducting points as per the rubric here. So that's really the challenge. You want to practice this. You want to kind of have everything scripted out. And I did also say to really use props and that sort of thing when you're doing this, so it's not just like straight lecture, because you could just sit here and talk about a topic and meet some objectives for 5 minutes, but you're going to lose your audience. So you need to have some props and some supporting items for your video presentation. And I said earlier, you could do things like posters, or you can use props. If you're teaching about food, you could actually have the food there. If you were teaching about insulin, you could have the insulin or pretend insulin in the syringe there. So anything that you can use to really just break up that kind of I am just talking and doing a video. The quality, so sometimes the lighting is not that great. Like my lighting, when you look at the recording here, is really not that great. I'd probably want more of a light coming toward my face. Also, if you're doing it in front of your computer, you sometimes get this weird, see that kind of bluish light there that's on my hands. So really thinking about your video quality, and then your background too. So if I was doing a real professional video, I probably wouldn't be right here by my elliptical machine. Right now it's the quietest place in the house with my girls upstairs, but really paying attention to what is this going to end up looking like. And then the audio quality, making sure you can be heard. There's not a lot of static or background noise like we had going on a little bit earlier. You want to be making eye contact. So like you're looking, so I keep looking over here at this, but then, trying to look back at your people. And then the interesting thing is, so I kind of look over to my right now because that's where I see the faces. but the camera is right in front of me, and they should probably, if I were recording, be more looking right at the camera. So, and that your content goes smoothly, and that you talk about the learning objectives, and you have to pause the video at a certain point so that you have to build in the sort of active participation pause break in your video. Okay, so any question? Well, let's just go ahead to the last one, and then we can talk a little bit more. So one question that usually comes up, where'd my last one go? One question that usually comes up is the question of screencast, video, role play. The topic, right? So you're not supposed to do the same topic for all of your video presentation, your screencast, and your role play. But what does that mean? So some topics are very big, like diabetes. Well, so you wouldn't do like insulin injections for all three, but you could do one about hypo and hyperglycemia, how to tell the difference. You could do one about diet, and then you could do a role play like teaching a patient how to inject themselves with subcutaneous insulin. So those to me are all very different topics. And that hopefully gives you an idea that, if there's something you're really, and it should be something you're really interested in and passionate about. It helps, I think, sometimes if you have some experience with what it is you're teaching to. So the role play demonstration is the last assignment, and this is always interesting. Well, one thing that's always interesting about all these assignments is that I get to see you. So I get to see you right now a little bit, but I really get to see you in the videos and the role play. And you'll get to see each other too, because some of these, you post and it's fly, Robbie, that it's peer reviewed. And so it's fun to really see each other and see what your skills are, and hear different accents from around the country and sometimes around the world. And just really get to see each other is fun. So role play demonstration, you really do need to have a person that's there with you that's playing the other part. So oftentimes what people do with role play is they, let me scroll down to where the actual role play is. They have their loved one with them, which is perfectly fine as long as they're willing and able to do it. I've seen people do role plays with their children. I've seen some really good acting too, and then I've seen some really good role plays with colleagues too, like doing some kind of psych mental health evaluation, and the colleague is acting the psych patient part, and that's often very fun. So anyway, so planning ahead, hey, when this is due week 11, you've got to do your filming, and it's got to be sort of this live interaction that you're having with another person. Usually what people do with the role play is they either demonstrate how to do an assessment. So they'll demonstrate how to do, like I said, a psych mental health evaluation, whatever. So they'll demonstrate how to do some kind of assessment on a patient, or they'll demonstrate how to do some kind of teaching with a patient. So it might be teaching about a medication or medications. It might be teaching about diabetes. And obviously that's going to just be related to what it is you are interested in. Again, video length 3 to 5 minutes. So again, that needs to be practiced, and it probably needs to be practiced with your role play partner before you actually do it. And same ideas with the video quality, the audio quality. This one is a little interesting with the maintaining eye. It says maintain. Oh, my internet connection is unstable. Maintaining eye contact with camera or patient during role play. So really thinking about where your camera is. You might start with your camera in one spot where you're kind of introducing the role play, and then you might have to move it, or you might have to move yourself. So really thinking about how does that look? How does that play out when you're actually recording it? Of course, you'll talk about the learning objectives again. And really that during the role play, you're demonstrating your, sort of clinical skills, but usually it's more like your teaching skills that you are demonstrating as well, or your assessment skills, which I guess would be clinical skills as well. And that you're really thoughtful and creative. So this is, what's fun in this class too is that there are no papers due. And I really love teaching this class because it's just such a much different way to evaluate your learning, and it pushes you in different ways that maybe writing a paper doesn't or hasn't yet. So it is also, I would say, for all three of the assignments to really be as creative as you can and thoughtful as you can, and really planning it out and knowing that, on the, a paper, you actually might be able to sit down and write, okay, I haven't done it. It's due tomorrow. I've got 2 hours tonight. I can write this paper. Whereas this may take a little bit more time and planning to practice and record a few times to really get the kind of quality that you're looking for. And I do suggest that you really do this in a quality manner. And it's not just for the grade and that sort of thing. But if you think about it, you then sort of have a product that you could use. So you could use this when applying for jobs or that sort of thing too, I would think, to show, hey, I've got this capacity to make some really good videos, and I know how to use technology in the classroom. And so hopefully it's something you become excited about too. Okay, so there are quite a few of you on the line. So we'll take a few questions and hopefully it'll answer most of the questions. So I guess whoever unmutes first will get the question first. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. Okay. Any questions?
Dr. Clark, I have one.
Yes.
Is there a video release that has to be signed for the participants that are volunteering to be in our video with us?
That is a good question. There is a video release that has to be signed. I think it's there in the classroom, probably under one of the weekly resources. And what I ask you to do is just to upload that. I think you upload that as we get closer. I'll let you know. But you don't need to fax it to me or anything. It either gets uploaded with the assignment or in the, if it gets posted in the discussion area, it would be uploaded there. So, yeah, good question.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'll wait.
No, go ahead. You're on the screen.
Okay. All right. Hi, Dr. Clark.
Hi.
I wanted to know, is there a program that can be downloaded for the screencast, or does that come up automatically with PowerPoint, say 2013?
So that will not come up with PowerPoint. It doesn't come up with PowerPoint. And so when you get to that assignment, there'll be the resources there and the learning resources that'll walk you through how to do that. So.
Okay. And I have a second question. Do each one of these assignments need a different teaching theme? Like you mentioned diabetes, and I could do 3 different aspects of diabetes, right? One would be insulin injection, one would be teaching about carb counting, which is what I was considering.
Okay.
And then the third would be something else, right? You can't just use the same video and change it to these different modes of teaching, like the same topic.
Right. So it needs to be different topics. So again, the diabetes, there's just so much. You could teach about exercise, I mean, you could easily do a 5-minute thing on exercise for diabetics, right? There's so much that they have to, checking their feed and checking their blood sugar and, making sure they eat something before they exercise, and because you don't want them to get hypoglycemic up there, right? So that could definitely be one. So, you just wouldn't want to then do that for your screencast too.
Okay.
But you could do something else on diabetes or heart disease or cancer or whatever. So.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you're not sure, run it by me, email or the Q&A form.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Clark.
Yes.
This is Sylvia in Hot Springs.
Hi.
A couple of questions. So when we make the videos, do you see good results from the computers or people using cameras and downloading them? Where do you see the best effects? Do computers do pretty well?
So computers do okay, so if we kind of look at actually, when I look at your computer screen here, it looks really good. And I love your background, by the way. That's beautiful. So you have a nice professional looking background there. Um,
This is in my office in the hospital, so.
So yeah, and your lighting looks really good there to me. So in that case, it might work okay. But like if you look at my lighting, I don't think it's that great. So if I was going to do, and see, there's kind of the blue light coming off the computer screen, which by the way, that blue light is so bad for us. But anyway, it blocks our melatonin and makes us not sleep. But anyway, if I was going to do it on the computer, I'd probably have another light like coming up this way or this way to give me better lighting. So most of the computers have pretty good quality. It's usually just more that lighting aspect. So it's really up to you, and you might want to play around with a little bit. And what resources you have. You know, if you don't have a video camera, although a lot of the phones nowadays have pretty good video cameras too. But then you really need like a little videographer person there to help you, right? So, yeah.
Right. And you said there was no paperwork or papers to turn in, but there's still a lesson plan that goes along with each one of these entries?
So there's a lesson plan for each one, but there's no formal APA 6 to 8 page paper type of paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I do want to say I'm really thrilled that so many of you came out. I think maybe this was a good time because it seems like probably at least half of you made it. So
can I ask one more question? So when we're doing these, do we just pretend we've got an audience and somebody's talking back to us and just mute and then stop for a minute and then keep going, as long as we're in that 3 to 5 minute?
Yeah, so you're teaching to a specific audience, right? But you know that they're going to be watching this as a video. So you're not teaching it as if they're right there in front of you. Does that make sense?
Okay, so you're pretending like you're making a video for a group to watch.
Exactly.
Okay, not just filming yourself like you would be teaching to a class, a live class.
Right. So it's more like, if I think it, that might work, but I think if you set your intention more like, this is a video that I am making for specific learning groups needs.
Like Dr. Burton did in that video we watched. Anyways, never mind.
So hopefully that kind of makes sense, right? And then you do, so okay, learners, go ahead and pause your video right now and take a look at your textbook page, 325. There's a great chart in there I want you to be familiar with, and then come back on. So you're not going to actually not do anything for a couple minutes, right? You're going to go ahead with your video so you can stay in with your 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, we have another question?
Dr. Clark?
Yes.
This is Deborah from Ohio. I was just wanting to know if on the lesson plans that we need to do, I know we already submitted to the discussion boards. Are you talking about expanding on those to make them complete?
So the lesson plans so what's interesting here is like you do your discussion and that might ask for
Right.
a plan, right? But then you also have a lesson plan for each of these 3 assignments. And so
Okay, I got you.
there's a template in the class and they should be different. So you
Okay.
don't, however, am I going to go back through and monitor everybody's what they've done? Well, probably not. But you do want that to use the template that's there in the classroom for doing your
Okay.
lesson. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's what I want to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is Autumn. Just to be clear on what you just said.
Sure.
So for like this week, we're turning in our lesson plan draft. And then for the discussion board coming up, we're just going to say what that plan is going to be.
I haven't looked at the discussion board coming up. Are you talking about this week's discussion or?
Next week, because next week talks about the track changes, and it's going to be tracking changes, and it's supposed to be you incorporate your feedback into your lesson plan.
Okay.
Am I mixing things up?
I'm not totally sure on that, but so usually the discussion has a different focus than your assignments have. So this week, though, you do turn in your draft, I believe.
Yeah, that's what's due this week.
Right. And I believe I give you feedback on that, and then that helps you to get ready for doing the actual presentation, but also for your final draft of that. So,
Okay.
and if it still seems unclear when we get there, then again, just use that Q&A forum.
I had a question related to what she just said.
Okay.
So this week's discussion, week 2,
Yep.
I entered a lesson plan. It had to do with abdominal pressure monitoring.
Uh-huh.
But by day 7, I have another one that I plan to submit having to do with carb counting and diabetics. Right? They need to be 2 different things. So then week 3's discussion, so that's week 2. So we have a good discussion due this week that we just handed in, and then an assignment that's due on day 7. That's 2 different lesson plans.
It is. The assignment that's due on day 7 is your lesson plan for your first video.
The video.
Yeah, so it should
Okay.
be aligned with that.
And then the discussion for week 3
Yep.
is the learner-centered.
So I'm on week 3 discussion, and there's 2 different topics: on-site learning and online learning.
Oh, there's an assignment and a discussion for week 3 as well?
No, it's 2 different, okay, it's 2 different discussions, and I will assign you to one or the other, I believe.
Okay,
To discussion topic 1 or 2.
I see.
Can I chime in real quick?
Sure.
So the discussion says the creating learner-centered lessons for the on-site environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has assignment 1 and assignment 2. This is for week 3.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I read the discussion board is that you do a brief description of your learner-centered lesson, which to me is what we are turning in this week, your draft. Is that not the right?
Hang on a second.
I don't think so.
I got the impression this week that the next couple of discussions have to do with whatever we chose for this discussion for week 2. That's what I was understanding.
Let's see. I'm reading through it. Yep, because it says reflect on your audience, learning need, learning objectives, and learning activity that you described in last week's discussion. So yes, it does. Whatever you're doing for this week's discussion carries over into week 3. So just remember that it's different than your topic for your video that you're doing. That lesson plan is different. Yep, so the lesson plan that you're building this week in week 2 discussion will move forward into week 3.
It's confusing.
It is a little confusing because they seem sort of similar, but they're actually fairly different, right? Because your lesson plan for your video is going to be pretty different than the one that you're developing in this week. So the good news is you're getting a lot of good experience developing lesson plans. So and it is really one of the big realities of education is really thoroughly developing that lesson plan and being able to evaluate it and see how well it works. So, and then how would you, that's what I like about next week's, like how would you do this if it was on site, and how would you do it if it was online or hybrid? It's good to think about those differences. So I will say too, it's kind of, we've gone over a lot, and there's a lot going on in this class. It's different from the other classes you've taken that were more likely heavily emphasizing the whole writing components. Now you're actually doing stuff that's like teaching with technology, and it's pretty normal to maybe feel a little bit overwhelmed too. So that's normal. And that I think the course is actually laid out pretty well. You have that assignment planner. Things are kind of really laid out week to week pretty well. So it's just, I think it's, it's a lot with the 3 major projects, but again, you're not writing papers. So other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Hi, Dr. Clark. I wanted to know, just to clarify with the topics, if we're going to choose the broad overall topic of diabetes, that we can only use it one time, right? Or can we use like more than one area from that broad overall topic?
Right. So yeah, you could do diabetic. So for your first one, you could do diabetic diet, which could be fun because you could have all kinds of different props that you could show. For your second one, you could do exercise for diabetics. And for your role play, you could teach someone how to do an injection. And then, well, I don't know if you want them to return inject, but you could have them return inject into like an orange or something. So yeah, so you can have that broad topic, but you couldn't do diabetes and exercise for all 3 or injection for all 3. So.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Do you need any APA? Is there some kind of PowerPoint or something, did you say, that later? Do we have to have APA in that?
So there's a screencast. What you would actually, so usually, it's just teaching, what I end up seeing is a lot of graphics and that sort of thing being used, and usually those do need to be cited if you got them off a website or whatever. There's kind of that fair use idea, technically you should ask for permission, but I'm pretty good with if you cite where you got it from so we know it's not yours. I think that's pretty good, good enough for me anyway. So, but yeah, you might do some citations and you might have a reference list at the end. But if you look at that rubric, it's not required in there. So, and it really depends on who your audience is that you're teaching to as well. So, good question though. Any other questions emerging?
Yeah, Dr. Clark.
Yes.
This is Joni. I do have a question. One of the previous classes that I had taken, I had a little bit of trouble uploading some videos, and tech support had helped me with that. And I ended up loading a product called Handbrake on my computer, but it was really challenging to be able to upload the videos. So a couple of times I was a little bit late. I wasn't sure if it was the speed of my home internet.
Okay.
Do you have any suggestions if you do have troubles uploading the video?
Well, if possible, I would say, try and get it done earlier and get it uploaded earlier. And then if you run into issues, I know that's not always possible. But if you're not able to upload it, call the tech support and they can start a ticket and you can tell me you're working with tech support to get it up there. So.
I have a couple of tips. It's Amber.
Okay.
I have a couple of tips. If you are filming with an HD SD card in a camera, you want to try to turn off the high definition because that's what slows the upload down for your video. That's one way. Just so you know, people don't realize that, especially if you're filming from a laptop. If you're filming in high definition or high pixel, it's going to take you some time.
That does make sense. So, you know, the higher grade quality of your video, then it's going to take more time.
This is Sylvia. I have another recommendation. When I started with Walden and I was having problems with technical support, IT told me to always access my site via Firefox. So I've used always Firefox because it's what they told me to use. However, in my last course, when I had to download videos, I could not do it. And so I called IT back, and they told me to use Google Chrome. And so my videos will download into the Walden system via Google Chrome, but they won't Firefox. So I don't know if it's me, my computer, what it is, but for my videos, I use Google Chrome to access the Walden database to download my videos, but when I try to go in through Firefox, it won't let me. So that's just something,
It's
you know, I have two different areas I have to access different ways.
It's interesting. So I've had some technical, you know, I've been teaching for Walden for 10 years. So I've, over the years, had some technical issues along the way. And they'll all, you know, the last couple times it's been like, okay, don't use Firefox, use Google Chrome. So I don't really like Google Chrome. So usually they fix it and I can go back to using Firefox. But yeah, I think sometimes trying a different browser can, for whatever reason, it's just more compatible. So,
okay.
I have another question. Sure. It's really to clarify something that was already said. I just don't feel like I got it.
Okay.
So if I'm, say, teaching diabetics and I take information off, the American Diabetic Association website to use either in a PowerPoint or in the video presentation, I don't need to cite that?
Well, I think, you know, in the case of like a screencast, if you're saying the American, you know, Diabetic Association recommends XYZ,
then I should.
Then you should.
Okay.
But if you're talking in a video, you could still say the American Diabetes Association, but you know, you don't have to reference that at the end. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question.
Sure.
If I wanted to use because we have to do an activity, right? So one of the things that I had thought would be fun for the learner would be to do a game, but I actually have to produce the game. I'm not going to have time because it's only 5 minutes. So, but I can say, okay, now class, we're going to now do a Kahoot game, you know, and do some questions. And I just say that and kind of pause it. Is that how? Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And you don't have to actually pause the video. You can just say, okay, now you're going to pause the video. I know you're out there watching this in groups or whatever, and you're going to do the whatever game. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? These are good questions. And more questions might come up when you really get into it too. And that's why we have the Q&A forum, and you have each other too. So I'm already seeing, you know, good dialogue amongst yourselves and supporting each other with tips. And so that's all good. All right, last call for questions. Okay, so good. I'm hoping that this was helpful, and I'll put the recording up in the classroom. It is going to be, you know, like a 50-minute recording. There may be parts that you want to review, and people that didn't make it might be reviewing. So I'm going to stop the recording now. Hopefully it's stopping. And that's it. That is the end of the meeting. So those of us on the East Coast, it's almost time for bed.
Thank you, Dr. Clark.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.